How do you create a successful business and a fulfilling life? In 2020, after leaving the corporate world once and for all, I founded my digital agency that replaced a six-figure income within just the first few months. Since then, I've coached thousands of entrepreneurs across the globe to do the same. Now I'm on a mission to teach others how an exceptional life is not only possible, but very achievable through entrepreneurship. Join me in this podcast as I interview industry experts to learn the ins and outs, the do's and don'ts of what it takes to become a great business owner, and share some of the lessons I've learned along the way as well. Thank you for joining me, and let's dive in. You are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time around, right? This is something that we have all heard the quote about. Jim Rohn said it, right? Tony Robbins' mentor. And we hear it so often that perhaps it has lost a bit of meaning for some of us, right? It's easy to think, okay, yeah, I'll spend my time, I'll network, I'll spend my time around people that are important, that mean a lot in my life. That's great. But I think what we miss oftentimes about this is that we have control of the influences in our lives. And this doesn't necessarily mean that you need to, pick and choose and say, nope, sorry, I can't spend my time around you, or I need to spend more time here, whatever, right? To an extent, yes. But what I actually want to provide maybe the perception of is how in control you are of creating that opportunity for influence. So I'll give you an example. On social media, right? I think the national average for social media is spending between 3 and 4 hours scrolling on social media every single day. And that might be a little bit exaggerated, but I'm sure that I'm pretty sure that I read something that's close to that, right? And that's mind-blowing. And there's so much content out there and so much information and so many resources and different things to distract our attention. But also, too, there are so many opportunities and resources and content that can help educate and that can help elevate you from your current state into something that you idolize. And an often commentary around social media is that it's toxic. And I feel that, definitely feel that, especially the last couple of weeks, I've been feeling drained from social media and from the interactions there, that I have actually closed those apps on my phone and removed them from my home screen so that it's not something that is popping out at me all the time. And I'm sure that we can all relate to that, right? But what is important here, and I think what I'm trying to get across, is that there's an opportunity to choose what you're putting in front of yourself, right? Even with social media, about 2 years ago, I spent time going through my social media feeds and unfollowing or removing all of the different accounts that were just like BS, like the memes and the random stuff that that you so easily can get stuck doom scrolling through. Now, I'm not saying that I do not still get stuck in in moments like that. I absolutely do. In fact, there are times that I have to recognize for a moment that, oh my gosh, I'm like in this doom scrolling paralysis. Hurry and jump up and get out of that, right? But what I am saying is that with social media as an example here, that we have the control to choose who we're following and the types of accounts that are pulling up on our feed, right? My wife jokes with me all the time that my social media is boring now because it's completely full of inspirational, successful entrepreneur type figures who are managing multiple businesses and who are putting out content about how they're doing it, how they're improving their lives, how they are, doing XYZ, because that is what I want my subconscious doom scrolling mind to be focusing on, right? That is what I want to create as my normal, that I am subconsciously, thinking about when I'm going to social media. Now, the other piece of that too is that we also have control in our environment to choose what we're being influenced by. And I'll explain this here and give an example of it, but then I want to explain something more important about this that is really the psychological reason about why you should be particular about what you are allowing yourself to be influenced by. But the example though is that I'll share this. So when I started my agency back in 2020, I signed up to do an in-person event to speak at an event for about 200 entrepreneurs. And it was when there was a little break in the pandemic. So all of a sudden people could meet in person for a bit. And so everyone was really excited about that. And I was super excited because I just started my agency and was diving full in to, running the business full time. And I remember the topic for my presentation was 5 secrets that will affect your life and business. And it was a fun little presentation, and it tied in both to elevating our lives and elevating your business through marketing. But one of those pieces was this quote of, the 5 people you spend your time with are who you become the average of. Or you become the average of the 5 people you spend your time with most. And it was in the preparation for that presentation that it hit me that as a marketing agency owner, I had the opportunity to choose who I wanted to be influenced by. So as a marketing agency owner, you're speaking with other business owners on a daily basis, right? Your clients are small business to medium-sized business owners. The people you're networking with are business owners. The vendors that you're working with, I mean, the list goes on and on. It's really the community you're building around yourself as an agency owner. And it hit me that I could choose the type of business owner I wanted to be influenced by, not just on a value basis, but also in my long-term vision basis, right? So for myself and my little family, my wife and I share a vision for creating a generational wealth, creating a legacy. And to be transparent and to be honest, before starting my agency, that was not really something that was ever on my mind. Building long-term wealth or passive wealth was not something that was ever really on my mind. In fact, I don't think I really ever thought about it. I just thought, oh yeah, cool, passive wealth, that sounds awesome, right? But I didn't know what it really meant. And so I made the decision to have my agency focus on working with businesses or companies that were in the wealth management and the alternative investment space. And that was obviously for a couple of reasons. One of those reasons being that my team and I have become really good at getting strong results for businesses in that space. They have a couple of very unique nuances to business, to their sales cycle, and to their target audience that are very particular to their industry. And we've become really good at, at helping them to be successful. But one of the really big reasons is truthfully that I wanted to be influenced on a daily basis by the type of conversation and lingo and education and mindset of these types of business owners. And this came to my mind today. I just got off a strategy session with one of our clients who has generated multiple 6 figures of passive income over his career and started out in the health enterprise sales space, which I, resonate with quite a bit. And it was so interesting on that conversation because as we're talking through everything, I'm realizing, man, here I am years later after making that decision to be intentional about who I'm influenced by. And we're sitting here talking about, events that he was speaking at and his business, solution and his investment solution, the fund that he has, the real estate properties that he's looking at investing in. And that's become the normal, right? That's become the normal conversation that I get to have on a daily basis, right? So the point being is that our environment, the things that we are influenced by, we have the decision. We have the opportunity to change that. We have the opportunity to be very intentional about about what we want our long-term self to be, right? And what you put yourself in front of, what you allow yourself to be influenced by now is exactly what you are going to become years down the road. So be intentional about that. Now, I mentioned that I was going to give, the psychological explanation behind this and why it is so important. And it's very important for obvious reasons, but one of those being one of my favorite topics, which is our reticular activating system. So the reticular activating system, or as many refer to it, the law of attraction, right? It is something that every single one of us has the power to do in our minds, but also scientifically, it's something that happens whether you are, consciously doing it or not. So you might as well be intentional about it. But what happens is your reticular activating system is a process, it's a piece in your mind, in your brain, that is responsible for filtering out information. So at any given moment, think about right now as you're listening to this episode, what are all of the different things going on around you? There might be other sounds, there might be smells, there might be, things going on in front of you that you can see, that you can touch, that you can hear, right? Your reticular activating system, or your RAS, is responsible for filtering out what is important and what's not. So imagine yourself sitting in a crowded room or in a party. If someone from across the room yells your name, you instantly pick up on it because your reticular activating system has been trained that your name is very important. And if that name is said or called out, it draws your attention. Right? This is the same system that is responsible for the phenomenon that happens when you purchase, make a new big purchase like a vehicle or, I don't know, something like that, right? Vehicle is the easiest example for this, in my opinion. But when you purchase a new vehicle and you start driving around and all of a sudden you see that new vehicle all over the place. Well, that doesn't actually mean that all of a sudden all of these people are just deciding to, trade in their cars and get the same exact one as you. What's actually happening is your reticular activating system has been tweaked to say, hey, this is important. This is important to me now. And it picks it out. And that becomes your reality, right? It picks it out and says, oh, hey, look, there's another thing that's important to you. Oh, there's one too, right over there, right? There's another one that's important to you, right? So it brings that to the forefront of your reality. So take that example, right? That process that happens naturally to every single one of us. It's literally part of our human brain. Take that process and put it into play with, the influences that are coming into your life, right? If I am telling my reticular activating system on a constant basis, hey, generational wealth is important to me. Developing passive forms of income is important to me, right? Surrounding myself with people who have these types of values is very important to me. Guess what's going to happen? That will become my reality. Those things that I intentionally train my subconscious to pick out as important will become my reality through the reticular activating system. So a little bit of double layer there on why it is so important to be intentional about what you're allowing yourself to be influenced by. I hope that this information is as helpful for you as it was for me when I had this realization years ago. And if it was, please feel free to share this episode with your friends, with a family member, or anyone that you feel could, get some use out of this. Hey, thanks for joining me for another episode of the Marketing Mastermind. If you took away any little golden nuggets or took down a mental note of any pieces that you loved from this episode, it would mean so much to me if you wouldn't mind sharing this with a friend, sharing it on your social media, or if you feel so inclined, rate and review this podcast. That is the best way to show your love and support and to get the podcast out there to more listeners. So I greatly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart, and I will see you on the next episode.